start? Okay. So, good morning, students. In the last class, we studied about national integration and what are the obstacles to national integration. So, and we also covered regionalism. That was one of the obstacles to national integration. And in today's class, we will study about communalism. Okay. So, we need to understand what is communalism. Okay. So, in the first slide, Clifford Gates, he is one of the famous social science researcher. He also is an anthropologist. He wrote that when we speak of communalism in India, we refer to religious contrast. When we speak of it in Himalaya, we are mainly concerned with racial ones, and in the Congo with the tribal ones. So here the significant link is between communal and political loyalties. Thus, when we talk of India, we are talking mainly of religion-based opposition. So communalism, that means different things in different areas or different countries, and India particularly, when we talk about communalism, we talk about the differences that has manifested between different religious communities like Hindu, Muslim, Christian, or you can say other Buddhist and Jainism. So we see the differences between all these or amongst all these religious communities that gets manifested. So communalism has been described as a sectarian exploitation of social tradition as a medium of political mobilization. So communalism, people, they struggle, they fight against each other, and that results into rape, exploitation, destruction of the facilities, or you can say the houses are destroyed, they are burned totally. And if you must have remembered about the riot or the communalism that occurred during the Indian partition, the partition of India and Pakistan, you could realize how devastating can communalism be in India. So this particularly is about that sectarial exploitation, because here the religion, they are divided and people struggle and they fight with each other on the basis of religion. Okay, so in this way it promotes belief in orthodox tenets and principles, intolerance and hatred of other religion, and thus divides the society. As we already studied that for national integration, we need a kind of feelings or a consciousness that we belong to one country or we are one. We identify ourselves with one particular identity, that is with one identity, that is the country of, or we are the citizen of India. So in that way we can actually understand that this particular communalism, it creates problem and it hampers the national integration because it divides the society. People no longer feel to be one and they don't feel to be close one because they think that other people or people belonging to other religion like Hinduism or Christian, or you can say Islam, they are different. So in that way they just simply don't tolerate each other. So if they are having certain religious procession of Islam, or you can say of Hinduism, then the other religious community that simply cannot tolerate that, and there is hatred among people that is manifested through communalism. So it's basically, as you can see that the word communalism, it's an ideology where there is a difference between the religious community and there people fight against each other, and there is hatred among people, and that becomes a major obstacle to our national integration. So in the next slide, communalism is described as an ideology stating the division between states, people, groups of people or communities on the basis of ethnicity, religion, belief, values, etc. So the difference of two or more religious, ethnic and social communities are sometimes produce classes in the society. So here what happens is that if you remember in this partition after independence, so what happened is that people, they fought against each other, and there was a clash between Hindu and Islam community, and people struggled to, and when they moved from India to Pakistan and also from Pakistan to India, and again they also tried to change their places, that also caused many death, and you can say many destructions in the society or Indian society. So communalism is in a broad sense means a strong attachment to one's own community, and in popular discourse in India it is understood as unhealthy attachment to one's own religion. So here, as we studied in the last class that about regionalism. So what happens is that here in regionalism, one person or a particular individual, he or she develops that feeling that he feels very close, or he wants the development of that particular region at the cost of other regions. So here in communalism in India, the individuals, or you can see like the particular group of people who feel close to that particular religion, and they want the development of their own religious community at the cost of the other religious community. So you can see that there is intolerance, and there is lack of peace and harmony among people, which leads to a great division in the society. Okay. So this communalism is an ideology that, in order to unify the community, suppresses the distinction within the community and emphasizes the essential unity of the community against other community. So no doubt there is unity, but unity is there within one community only. So it's not between all the communities or all the religious communities. So what happens is that here, when in Hinduism or in a village, there is a particular set of a group of people who are Hindu. So what happens that they become intolerant towards the other community, that is Islam community, or other group of people who live in a different community in that particular village. So here there is the division, here there is hatred that is expressed through communalism. Okay, so we will try to understand the meaning of communalism through some of the definitions given by the scholars. So first definition is by Harbanks Mukhia, who has said that communalism is the phenomena of religious differences between groups, often leading to tension and even rioting between them. And he elaborates that people of different religious communities become hostile when they have to live together and share common economic, political and other scarce resources. So here there is a kind of competition to avail or to get all the facilities or to use those resources that are available in that particular village or a particular district or a particular state, you can say. So here that particular division between the religious community, Hindu, Muslim, mostly in India, that kind of division or hatred is famously between this Hindu and Muslim community, and also sometimes between Hindus and Christian community. Because Hindus, they believe that these Christian missionaries, they start to evangelize people, they try to convert some of the tribal people in the remote areas. So Hindu community, they kind of also want this to be stopped. So there is a kind of intolerance here, because they actually think that India is a kind of Hindu community and all people are Hindu here, and the Christian missionaries, they have started converting people, and that is against the culture or the tradition of the country. So these are the ideas or the beliefs which creates the division or the hatred between the religious communities. So they become intolerant towards each other and they fight. Okay. So in the next definition by D.E. Smith, communalism as the function of religious communities in a way generally considered detrimental to the interest of other group or of the nation as a whole. So this is very clear, because we know that communalism is against the national integration or unity among people. So it creates a kind of division, and the unity of the country is hampered. Okay, so it's not in the good interest of the country. So also it is not in the good interest of both the religious communities who are in fight with each other. Okay, so in the next slide, we will study about definition of by Ram Ahuja. He is also a major sociologist. So communalism is a belief that is characterized by strong antagonism practiced by members of one community against the people of other community. In some instances, the rivalry goes to the extent of harming and insulting members of particular community, and in extreme cases, dishonoring women and even killing person. So what does it mean that when communalism that occurs, when there are riots, you must have heard about. So here, women, they become the victim of all these issues because they are the one whom these people they target, and women are raped, and children they are also kidnapped and raped and exploited. So these are the social issues and major problems again, and the human right is also violated. So these things occur when people come against each other and they fight. Okay, so this is on the basis of religion only, because that's why we call it communalism. That is, it is based on the differences, or you can say intolerance and hatred between the different religious communities which are existing in a particular village or a particular area. So, while communalism is an ideology, communal violence is a demonstration of this ideology. So, communal persons are those who practice politics through religion, and these people tend to use God and religion and instruments as instrument to gain political support. This is similar to the older society where the king and church had used the name of the religion to live luxuriously. This trend is witnessed now in present society also. So, when this communal violence occurs in a particular society, when women, children, and older people, all of them are exploited, that human rights, those are violated, and also the property, they are also destroyed. So in that case, what happens is that this denotes the kind of communal violence that is there due to the communalism. So it is believed that the communalism or the communal violence is used by the politicians for the political support, because they try to get the attention of a particular religious communities, and how they try to get the attention or get the vote of those particular religious communities, that is by putting the religious communities against each other. So they say that, or they propagate that the other religious community, or maybe Islam community or Christian community, they simply try to exploit or take over the resources those are available, and they try to put a kind of conspiracy and divide this religious community who used to live harmoniously before. So here he has tried to relate this communalism with the political aspect, because this political or the communal people who use the religious communities for their own benefit, they want the vote of a particular religious group. So they target the religious group, and they instigate violence in that particular area by putting these religious communities into conflict. So in the next definition by Zainab Banu, communalism is an ideology in which a minority receives unequal treatment from the majority on the basis of religion, culture, and ethnic characteristics. So what happens is that if in a particular area the Hindu community, or you can say Islam community, has the less number, or their population is less than that of the other religious community, then that community whose number is less or whose population is less suffers the most, because they don't have that much manpower, and the majority religious community who has the majority in population, or who has the numerical strength, they try to exploit and they try to hamper these the facilities, or you can say the properties of that other religious group who has less number. So that particular division or difference is based on the basis of the differences in culture, because also in India the eating of beef, that is a political issue, because that is also banned in some of the states like UP, and there they have tried to say that the cows, those are worshipped by the Hindus, so they can't be eaten by the Islam community, the people belonging to Islam religion. So that itself also led to many religious, or the communal violences in that particular state. So here we can see such instances which are related to culture, because this is their culture, and some people, they eat the food that is not simply eaten by the other religious community. So here there is a difference, and that difference is not tolerated. When differences are not tolerated, that leads to conflict and ultimately communal violence, and ultimately the destruction of the properties and violation of the human right. So in the next definition by Wilfred Cantwell Smith, communalism is an ideology that has emphasized the social, political and economic unit of each religion and has emphasized even the antagonism between different communal groups. So it's also the similar thing, because here the difference is between the religious communities or the communal thing, and there is an antagonism. So in the definition of PRAVA, communalism is a political doctrine that makes use of religious and cultural differences to garner political gains. So this also has already been pointed by Ram Ahuja, where he has said that that religious differences are used by the politician for their own benefit, to have the vote bank. So here the communal, the politician, they act as communal persons who try to exploit the religions on the basis of the differences. In the next slide, we'll be studying about the characteristics of communalism. So the first characteristic is it is an ideological concept. Okay, so this is an ideology, this is a belief of a particular religious communities. So if a particular individual believes in a particular way or believes against he is against the culture, the way of life of other religious communities or the people, their way of life that is simply disliked by another religious communities, then that communalism occurs. So that ultimately leads to or gradually over the time that leads to this communal violences and destruction. So it is an ideological concept, people believe in that way. And the next characteristics is based on orthodox principles. Yes, because it's not at a liberal. If that would have been liberal, then people would have accepted each other, they would have accepted the differences that exist between them. So it is based on the orthodox principle and it is based on intolerance. As I already said that intolerance is there. If there would have been tolerance, that people who had accepted each other, they would have tolerated each other's differences and would have lived in harmony. So this communalism is based on intolerance and propagation of intense dislike towards other religions. So it's not simply about disliking the other religious groups, but it's also about propagation of the intense dislike. So people, they gossip against other religion, they talk about it, they discuss about it, even in the public domain, even in the public sphere, they have discussion about it, and in that way they propagate that dislike, or that hatred that spreads among other members in that particular communities that is against the other religious community. Then considering own religion to be superior. So it's very obvious, because when we studied about regionalism, we also saw that here one particular individual believes his or her own region to be superior than the other region. So here also in communalism, one particular individual, he or she believes that particular religion or his or her own religion to be superior than the other religions existing in that particular area. Then working towards the elimination of other religions and their values, yes, they work. It's not that they simply think or do in that way. They also act in in that is against the way of life or that hampers the normal functioning of the members of the other religious communities, like Hindus working against the Muslims, or Muslims working against the Hindus, and making use of extremist tactics, including use of violence against people belonging to religions and faith. So there are also examples in UP, Bihar and some of the states where you must have heard about people beating the other individual because simply he didn't say about or praise the Lord Ram. So Lord Ram is a Hindu god, and when that person didn't say that, there was violence. So here also you can see how simple or a normal life can be communal in nature. So here that person was beaten. So you can see that that is the use of violence in communalism. Then beliefs that followers of same religion have common political, economic and social interests which are different from beliefs of other communities. Yes, because there is difference, because there is intolerance, so So they believe that their interest, political, religious and other interests are obviously different than that of the other religious communities. So believes that followers of other religions are to be completely incompatible, antagonist and hostile. So here, because they don't tolerate each other, so they think that the other community is also hostile and they are also aggressive and they want to harm them. So when both the communities, they believe that both of them want to harm each other, in that case, there is no understanding. And without lack of understanding and tolerance, that leads to communal violence. So tends to believe that communal interests are superior to the national interest. Yes, because national interest is completely avoided here. They don't think about national unity, they don't think about their own country or the nation, and they only think about their own religion. So religion is only important here, not even the humanity, not even the nation. So that leads to communal violence, and tends to believe that, treats citizen of a nation not as citizen but as member of particular religious community. Yes, because in India all the citizens are equal, but in communalism, one particular religious group who is already communal, he or she believe that the other member of the religious or the other religious community, they are not simply citizens, but they are the members of religious communities. So here the equality concept is not here, because people are against each other. They believe that only they identify themselves with their own religion. I'm a Hindu, or I'm a Muslim, or I'm a Christian. So this is their identity. It's not that they say that I am Indian. No, they only identify themselves with their own religion. In its extreme form, it demands separate nation for a particular community. It resorts to violence, fraud, and even gets assistance from foreign powers to achieve their political goal. As I said that this communal violence becomes more communal with the help of the politicians or some of the political factors who actually channelize this hatred among people into their own benefit. They demand a different nation out of the existing nation. So that leads to violence, fraud, because we have already seen that in India when independence occurred. In that time also Pakistan was created on the basis of religion, more or less at that time. So that particular religion was also, that division with that occurred in that time, that was communal in nature, because communal riot occurred at that time and many people lost their lives and many destruction occurred. So it leads to abuse of power, and it is used by the elites as a tool for exploiting the communal identities of the poorer section of people belonging to their own religion. So here, who suffer the most? The poorer ones, who do the marginalized ones, the farmers, the peasants, the landless laborers who don't have the land, or those poor people, they suffer the most. It's not about the rich people or the elites who live a very happy and luxurious life, because they will not be affected by it. If there is a riot in a particular area, then people will suffer, they will have economic problems, they will have the educational problem, their children will not be able to go to the schools because everything will be shut down, and they will not be able to go to their work. The daily wage laborer, they will not be able to go to their work. So their lives will be affected and they are the worst sufferers. So it is engineered by opportunistic political and economic interest of groups within political parties. We already discussed about it, and it sets the foundation stone of democracy, secularism and national integration. Yes, we are studying it under the section of national integration, and when communalism occurs, it is about differences, it is about the hatred, and it is about the division of a particular country, and in that way it is against democracy and it is against secularism, because in secularism every religion is respected and given equal opportunities, but in communalism this is not available. So here it is against democracy, secularism and national integration. Okay. So in the next slide we will study about the origin. So in India, we need to have some information about the historical factors or the origin of the communalism in India. So the very first, we know that all the current or contemporary things that are happening, they have a history during the period of the colonization. So from the colonial period, these such originated as the colonizers divided the country on the basis of religion and tried to rule them with the policy of divide and rule. I think you must have already heard about this in your history classes. And the communalism in India is the result of the emergence of modern politics, which has its roots in the partition of Bengal in 1905 and feature of separate electorate under Government of India Act 1909. And later, British government also appeased various communities through communal award in 1932, which faced strong resistance from Gandhiji and others. All these acts were done by British government to appease Muslim and other communities for their own political needs. This feeling of communalism has deepened since then, fragmenting the Indian society and being a cause of unrest. Yes, these are some of the policies of Britishers which try to divide the country of India into different religious communities, like they try to appease the Muslim or please the Muslim and Hindu community in two different ways. So these are the policies or the acts by Britishers which resulted into division in the country, because only by dividing a particular country or a particular area you can rule them. Because when people are united, it's very difficult to rule or control them, but when people are divided, it's easy to control them. So the two-nation theory supported by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, that is creation of Pakistan, and V.D. Sarkar was flawed, and history has proved this. For example, there is much in common between Bengali Hindu and Bengali Muslim than a Bengali Hindu and a Punjabi Hindu, who don't share the same closeness in cultural ties as the former. So in the liberation of Bangladesh, the Bengal Hindu and Muslim joined hands to oust the Muslim of West Pakistan. So communalism was expected to be dead after independence, but it did not end. In the past 15 years, example we have unfortunately seen in communalism in India, with the exception of a new unfortunate incident. So it's not that after independence, after these Britishers or the colonizers left, that communalism stopped in India, because even today we have many examples of communalism that are happening, or not exactly communalism. Then there are multiple examples of communal violence in each of the state of our country. So also for Jawaharlal Nehru, the Hindu right wing was the biggest threat to India, and this was contradictory to the Sarbat Patel's opinion that left wing extremism was a bigger threat to India. So this doesn't imply that the left wing was not a threat to India. According to Nehru, it merely implied that the priority with which Nehru attached towards curbing the right-wing organization was higher, and for the Patel, it was curbing the left-wing extremism. So these are based on religion, because some believe that India is a Hindu nation, and some believe that India is not a Hindu nation. So there are differences, and that continues till today. In the next slide, we will highlight some of the types of communalism. The first is political communalism. Okay, so to survive the sphere of politics, leaders tend to implicitly promote the idea of division among communities, and this gives rise to political communalism, where different sets of people are divided into political lines, ideologies. So I already discussed about it, that how communal people or the political leaders, they tend to exploit the religious communities and have their own benefit out of that division or that conflict between the religious communities. And in social communalism, when the societies believe divide these into different groups and lead to rivalry among each other, it leads to social communalism. Yes, because if that is not by the political leaders, or if the communal leaders don't use that particular differences between the religious community, then it's about social communalism. It's not political, then it's social communalism. Then economic communalism, the difference in economic interest of the group of people or communities leading to further classes in the society can be termed as economic communalism. Yes, if the economic interest varies between different religious communities, then there is also conflict, and there is also communalism, and that comes under economic communalism. In the next slide, we will study about some of the causes of communalism. The first is divisive politics. We already discussed about it. So when we are talking about communalism, we also need to actually point out that political factor that is leading to communalism in India. So communalism is often defined as a political doctrine that makes use of religious and cultural differences in achieving the political gains. Then second cause is economic causes. Uneven development, class division, poverty and unemployment aggravates insecurity in the common man, which make them vulnerable to political manipulation. So in India, when you talk about India, we can see that almost all the Muslim population, they are not economically more advanced than that of their Hindu counterparts. So here we can see that due to this economic, or you can say the financial disparity between the religious communities, that also can lead to intolerance and ultimately communalism. The next cause is history of communal riots. Yes, because India is such a country where communal riots have occurred throughout the history, and those historical factors have actually remained in those particular states where those riots occurred. And also in today's time, there are chances that those historical factors may cause to another riot in particular states. Then politics of appeasement, prompted by political consideration and guided by their vested interest, political parties take decisions which promote communal violence. Then isolation and economic backwardness of Muslim communities. Yeah, we already discussed about it. Yeah, because the failure to adopt the scientific and technological education and insufficient representation in the public service, industry and trade has led to feeling of relative deprivation. Yeah, so what happens is that when we see other religious communities or people from other religious groups prospering economically, politically and educationally, so there is a kind of relative deprivation when you feel that we are not better than them. So that causes a hatred and a kind of intoleration, jealousy between the religious groups, and that ultimately over the period of time leads to communalism. Then there is administrative failure. A weak law and order is one of the causes of communal violence. So if there are chances of communal riot in a particular area, and if the administrative factors were unable, or the administrative staffs were unable to control that situation properly and manage the law and order in that area or in that district, then that will lead to communalism and communal violence in a greater scale and occurring into a riot. The psychological factor, the lack of interpersonal trust and mutual understanding between two communities often result in perception of threat, harassment, fear and danger in one community against a member of the other community, which in turn leads to fight, hatred and anger phobia. Yes, when we don't have a mutual understanding, when we don't trust each other, so there needs to be a trust between Hindu and Muslim community, Hindu and Christian community, Muslim and Christian community. So that trust will develop, and it will not allow communal violence to occur. Okay, that will lead to unity between people. So because this is not there, because people are not psychologically or mentally close to each other, that also leads to communalism. Then there is a role of media. It is often accused of sensationalism and disseminate rumors as news, which sometimes resulted into further tension and riot between two rival religious groups. Also the social media. So it has emerged as a powerful medium to spread messages relating to communal tension or riot in any part of country. Yes, there is sometimes the misinformation and misunderstanding between the religious communities, because sometimes false news or certain news or particular incident is exaggerated by this social media, or you can say electronic media channels, or sometimes newspaper also. So that gives a different perception and impression to the religious communities or people belong. For example, there is a case where the journalist or the news anchor has tried to criminalize the Muslim, and when they try to generalize that Muslim people are, for example, Muslim people are perceived as being involved in the terrorist activities, which is wrong. And it's not, we can't generalize that, because all Muslims are not same. And if there are some of the examples of that, but that can't be the truth. So when the news or the social media channels, they try to picture that particular issue in a negative way, that gives a negative perception to the member of other religious community, like to a Hindu or to a Christian, and that tends to criminalizing that entire religious community, which leads to violence and also hatred, and leading to communalism. So in the next slide, we will study about the consequences of communalism. As we already know that what communalism does. So it is threat to national integrity. It is a catalyst to political and social tension in the state. It leads to division between the people, groups of communities, or group of state in the country. These are very obvious. And then it is attached to the rivalry of one religion, belief, values. So these are against, the beliefs and values of people are against each other, and that leads to social tension. So it is active hostility or opposition towards other religion and belief often leads to issues in society. Yes, this is not a positive concept, or it's not at all good for our national integration and our national unity. In the next slide, we have some of the examples of communalism in India. Okay, so we'll just study this briefly. So after assassination of Mahatma Gandhi by Nathuram Godse, there was an ebb in Hindu right-wing activities as they became defensive, and the government cracked down on such organizations, including banning of RSS, and many leaders of the Hindutva forces were even arrested. So here also there is again a conspiracy, or you can say confusion regarding the death of our father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi, that was somehow related to the communalism of in the country. And then in 1961, Jabalpur riot that came as a shock to the nation. This was something that caught the attention of the political establishment. This forced Nehru to rethink his strategy and plans, and certain corrective measures were taken after this. Then in 1970s, communalism was under check, especially during the emergency period. Then the most important that you must have heard many times, that is Babri Masjid case. So here in 1986, the doors of Babri Masjid at Ayodhya were opened, which were closed since 1949, and a group of Muslims formed the Babri Masjid Action Committee. This committee was headed by some Muslim theologians, supported by Muslim intellectuals and the general masses. So this gave a big push to organizations like BHP and BJP, which was formed in 1982 out of the organization called Jan Sangh. Then BJP and BHP started campaigning for a grand Ram temple at Ayodhya. So that also led to riot, and many lives were lost, and there were also great destruction in that area. Then the Gujarat riot of 2002. So then also we have partition of India 1947, going to the history. Then anti-Sikh riot of 1984. Then ethnic cleansing of Kashmiri Hindu Pandits in 1988 in Kashmir. Then Babri Masjid demolition in Ayodhya 1992. Assam communal violence 2012. Then Muzaffarnagar violence 2013. And recently Delhi riot. Okay, so these are some of the examples of communalism in India, which we need to study seriously, and this needs to be addressed properly. So coming to the next slide, we will be studying about the solutions. Okay, how can communalism be solved? So the first is role of law and order, okay, or the role of the administration. Yes, I think the administrators have an important role to play, because they have the responsibility to manage the law and order in a particular district or a state. So the police have also important role to play in diffusing the communal riots and flare up before it assumes a huge proportion. Yes, because when people come in large number and they are just against each other and they just kill each other, then it's very difficult to control people who are in such a huge number. So here the role of police, the role of the administrators, the role of the collectors become very, very important. So they should act responsibly to combat violence and work with the cooperation of peace committees and members of conflict in communities to resolve them. So those communities like Hindu community or Muslim community or Christian community or any other religious community who are in violence with each other, they need to be addressed. Their issues need to be addressed. They should be invited and they should talk about it. They should discuss about their own problems, and peace committees should be set up so that that problem can be addressed. Then the role of education. Obviously, we need to educate people and the students, because the study contents should be devoid of any communal content and partial views about particular religion. Yes, also our school textbook or the college textbook, there should be no content which gives a negative perception or a negative description about a particular religious community. For example, criminalizing Muslims or criminalizing Hindu rulers in a particular period, historical period. So it should not be there. It should be neutral, and it should in fact teach secular principles and appreciation and respect for all religions, which our constitution says. Then schools and higher education institutions should use various teaching and promoting national values and communal harmony. Teachers should be trained to motivate students to conduct community programs with involvement from their parents, neighbors, and others to promote secularism, nationalism, cooperation, and tolerance. So these are the major virtues which need to be inculcated among all the citizens of the country that will lead to national integration in a better way. Then the role of religious leaders, yes, because religious leaders have the power to control and they can manipulate people. So they have an important role to play if a member of a particular religion, for example, Hindu religion, is against the Muslim community. Then the religious leaders should make them understand that they should believe in harmony, they should believe in peace, but not being involved in the conflict. So religious leaders have an important role to play, as the preaching is followed by the masses and people look up to their leaders, and hence these leaders should teach the importance of communal harmony through their discourses. Then role of media, as I said, media can not only destroy the society, it can also build the society in a better way. So when media will picturize these particular issues or the communal issues, and there will be a neutral picture where there will be respect for all the religions, that can help in having a good culture and respect that will lead to more equality among the religions. Then also role of NGOs. NGOs, they also publicly campaign in media promoting communal harmony and national unity. They should draw public focus on more pressing national problems and educate people about the ill consequences of riots and destruction based on religious intolerance. Yes, NGOs also have an important role to play. All the stakeholders of the societies, they have an important role to play in building the nation, because they can campaign about the benefit of having national harmony, and that should be educated to people. So ban on communal political parties. So those political parties who try to use the religious communities for their own gain, they should be banned completely by the election commission. And then public awareness, this is also needed, because that needs to be raised about harmful impact of communalism. Our constitution, which labels India as a secular nation, makes provision to protect the interest of all religions and goes beyond the code of any religion. Hence, one must learn to put national interest above one's religious views. Yes, this is very much needed, because if we only think about own religion and we become intolerant towards other religions, then that will lead to more hatred, that will lead to more tension, conflict, and also communal violence. So that needs to be stopped. People need to be made aware through education, through the NGOs and also some of the government programs. So people need to be educated about, one major thing, that is, living in harmony with each other, like Vasudeva Kutumbakam. The entire world is our family. So we should not treat others and we should not badly, and we should not think that they are others. So we should be always feel close to each other, and we should live in brotherhood, harmony and peace. So security also, all communities must be treated equally. The people belonging to smaller communities would not feel isolated. Instead, confidence would be instilled in them so that they feel safe and secure to partake in the growth of the nation. Yes, because a Muslim and a Christian, Buddhist and Jains, they have a very less number in our country, and they need to be given more safety and security so that they can also develop educationally, politically, socially, and play an important role in the betterment of our nation. So in the next slide, we will study about, we'll just discuss some of the questions. Because we finished communalism, we finished the part of national integration, the concept, then regionalism and also communalism. So what is communalism? So here you need to write about that it's an ideology. You can also give some of the characteristics of communalism. It is based on intolerance. It is based on the view that one's religion is much more superior than the other religions, and also try to give some of the definition by Ram Ahuja and other scholars who have given different angle to the communalism problem in India. Then what are the causes of communalism? Yes, we already discussed about it, like the political causes are there, the historical causes are there, there's the social causes, the economic causes, because some religious groups are more economically advanced than the other religious group, that gives a kind of relative deprivation to that members of that religious community. So these are the causes of communalism. Then the impact of communalism. What is the impact of communalism? We already know about it. It is against democracy, it is against national integration, and it divides the society on the basis of religion, which is very, very harmful and needs to be stopped. So also, what can communalism, how can communalism be rooted out from Indian society? Yes, we also discussed about some of the solution where there is the need of making people aware about the harmfulness of communalism, how they can live in peace, harmony, brotherhood, and there is a role of the administrators to have the peace committee to discuss and interact with the various religious communities in the riot-prone areas, and also the role of the religious preachers or the religious leaders, where they can actually preach or teach people about the need of the harmony or the societal harmony, and communalism or the hatred against other religious community that should be stopped. And also we discussed about the role of the social media and the role of the political parties, and also the role of the government, because government needs to provide certain securities, certain facilities to those religious minorities who are staying in our country, because they are equal with everyone. They are also the citizen of the country, and they need to have a better life, and they need to lead a advanced and prosperous life, and they need to contribute to our nation. So these things, like the solutions that can lead to a better and united country, that is India. So these are the things you can write in the last answer. So this was all about today's class.